Greetings, chess fans and friends. If you don't think that you could ever beat a player rated over 3,000, then you should think again. In the game we're about to look at, you're going to see Magnus Carlsen take down a 3,000 rated player on chess.com, a GM by the name of Rudik Makarian, using tactics that anyone could learn. This is why you should never stop studying your tactics. But enough said, let's get right into this game.
Magnus Carlsen, playing white, begins the game with e4, and we have a Sicilian defense from Makarian, knight f3, d6, and now bishop to b5 check, a favorite of Carlsen's, the Moscow variation. Now knight d7 from Makarian, this is a move I like to play. No bishop d7, let's keep more pieces on the board, and let's get ready to kick that bishop around with the move a6. Now here Carlsen plays a relatively unusual move. He plays a4, but it actually makes a lot of sense because after a6 from Makarian, he can set up shop on c4 with the bishop, and there isn't going to be an immediate b5 kicking that bishop around. So knight g to f6 from Makarian, hitting the pawn on e4, d3 defends, and now e6, preparing a potential d5 at some point with tempo on the bishop. Carlsen castles. We have bishop to e7, rook to e1, supporting the e-pawn. Castles, bishop to b3 from Carlsen, so that if and when d5 comes, it will not come with tempo on the bishop. b6 from Makarian, preparing to put his bishop on b7. Now we have c3 from Carlsen, preparing his own strike in the center with the d-pawn, with d4. Now bishop to b7, knight b to d2, and now b5. Gaining some space and opening up the b6 square to potentially move the knight to. d4 from Carlsen. All right, here we go. And now e5 from Makarian, staking his own claim in the center, but inviting Carlsen to blockade the center with the move d5, which is what he plays. Kind of double-edged. He's blocked his own bishop. This bishop doesn't have a whole lot of activity on very many diagonals anymore, but Carlsen does gain a lot of space. The engine thinks that this position is roughly equal. Now we have c4 from Makarian, hitting the bishop and opening up the c5 square for his knight. So bishop c2, knight c5, and now knight to f1 from Carlsen, preparing to reroute to g3 and then hop to f5. Very standard idea in this opening. h6 from Makarian, knight to g3 from Carlsen, and now knight to h7. I guess he has the idea of putting a piece on g5. If he could trade off this bishop, that would be very nice. This is a bad bishop for him. Magnus plays bishop to e3, comes with a threat, threatening to take out the knight, and then when the pawn recaptures, this pawn doesn't have any defense and it will be lost. So now queen to c7 from Makarian so that the queen can capture instead. We have knight to f5, hitting the bishop. And at this point, Makarian thinks, understandably, I don't mind if you take out my bishop. That's a bad bishop. So he simply defends it with rook f to e8. But this is a mistake. The engine thought that bishop to f6 was the better move. This sets up a tactic for Carlsen, which is relatively elementary. Most of you could probably find this if you looked hard enough. Knight takes e5. This is tactics 101, my friend. After d takes e5, d6. With the fork, Carlsen's going to get his piece back. So Makarian grabs on d6 with the bishop, but now Carlsen has queen takes d6, which is devastating. Makarian's queen is hit, his knight is hit with two pieces, and there is no adequate defense. Let's look at a couple options. The obvious knight to e6, getting the knight out of danger while protecting the queen, fails to queen takes c7, knight takes c7, and now knight to d6 with a fork. Okay, the bishop has to be defended, so we go rook e to b8. Looks like everything might be okay for a minute, but after a takes b5, and bishop to a7, this bishop's going to lose its defense if this rook moves. White is winning. What else? You could try capturing the queen, but after knight takes d6, again there's the fork, and after rook e to b8, the knight on c5 will fall. Bishop takes c5. You could try to defend with the rook on e8, with rook e to c8. Now we got to fork this way. Knight to e7 check, king moves, there goes the rook. So the move Makarian decided to try was rook a c8, but here we go. A takes b5, rook to a7, pinning this bishop, threatening to capture on c5 and then win the bishop. And here Makarian, seeing he had no adequate defense, resigned. So let's take a look at his options. What could have he tried? If you try to defend the bishop with the rook, let's say, well, your queen falls. That obviously isn't working. If you move the knight to e6 here, now there's bishop to b6, hitting the queen. Taking on d6 results in a triple fork here. That obviously fails miserably. How about queen to b8? Again, knight to e7 check with the fork, winning material. So quite an impressive demonstration by the great Magnus Carlsen of how you can take down a 3,000 rated player, prompting a resignation after only 23 moves using relatively simple tactics, which will hopefully come as an inspiration to you to keep studying your tactics and ingraining as many of these patterns as you can into your brain, which is a guaranteed way to improve your rating, especially in these blitz games. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and I'll see you on the next video.